So are they hallucinations? Let's talk about that, right? An AI hallucination is defined as a phenomenon where an LLM, a generative AI chatbot, just like Air Canada's, perceives patterns or objects that are non-existent and then creates output that's like nonsensical or inaccurate. That's a pretty good definition from IBM. However, I think hallucination's a dangerous and maybe misleading word. It almost implies that it's unknown and a little bit random and maybe uncontrollable. And I think it's kind of healthier if we take the approach that, you know what? These are actually mistakes. They're mistakes in the data that was used to train AI, the data that's used to operate AI, and frankly, a failure of the QA process around the AI agent and the copilot itself to have a wide enough test set of use cases to catch these types of things. And a lot of these things are solved by data management and data governance. Let's look at some of these other hallucinations or mishaps. So a student recruitment tool for an educational institution, their AI started rejecting applicants who were greater than 55 years old. And sure, there's not a lot of them, but there's certainly some of them. Big case ensues from this because of ageism. They pay three or $400,000 in fines. But what's really going on is it's at the data level and some biases that were in the data. I mean, Sachin, what are your thoughts on what the actual data problem was here that caused this?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think this was the data problem because again, I can go on and on about what are some of the data quality rules that need to be put in place for the AI systems. And I mean, in this case, it could be, what the whole distribution analysis wasn't done properly, or data range analysis wasn't done properly as they were kind of building the model, their feature set. So again, I've got a list of all the things that need to be done for when you're building an AI system and what is their data readiness preparedness. And it's definitely the cracks in one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the next one, the Gen AI ended up hallucinating and making up court cases that a legal firm and a lawyer was actually using as part of their legal brief in their argument in court. They made up, I believe, 6 different cases that did not exist, and this was not caught before they went to court. And again, I mean, these are data issues and business rule type issues, right, Sachin?
Yeah, 100%. And again, some of them, I mean, obviously not everything is data. There's in some where the model has to be validated as well. And you know what, before you put it in production, and you need to make sure that you know what the whole human HITL, human in the loop is kind of incorporated as well. And explainability tools are incorporated for these models as well. But again, as in any of these systems which require a lot of, I would say, customer facing or that are outside of your internal, performance management, I think you really need to make sure that the data source verification and then the model monitoring is in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, another one, a big healthcare institution, they had an AI tool that was looking for and trying to flag patients for more urgent and critical care. And they ended up failing to flag Black patients, and it was much more likely to be flagging white patients for follow-up and actions. Again, comes down to data and lack of representativeness of that data, and it's ultimately a data issue, right, Sachin?
Yeah, again, I think we've talked about it again. Same distribution analysis needs to be done, and then unique data uniqueness and redundancy check needs to be done. Accuracy assessment needs to be done before you can just say that, hey, my model is ready because I tested it with some feature set, and now I'm going to throw it in out there. I think there's way more governance on the data side, on the model side, and then obviously the testing of it. That needs to be incorporated for to not make sure that these things don't happen.
Yeah, 100%. A little bit on the lighter side, I suppose. Fast food chain who was piloting AI, their AI app ended up, no matter what you said, it added 10 more chicken nuggets onto your meal. And there was a person who was stuck, unfortunately, with 260 or 300 nuggets on their order, and they didn't know how to bail out. And for those of us who have been in fast food drive-throughs, sometimes it's already frustrating enough. But aside from the humor there, it's obviously a ridiculous situation, but it's still not a hallucination. Is it, Sachin?
Yeah, no, I think this was done intentionally. Somebody just made this joke. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think again, it all comes down to, what, especially in the multimodal world where you need to make sure that, I mean, I don't know if that app was also kind of the voice app as well. And was it taking into account some of these idiosyncrasies on the voice models? or it was it a really data problem where, you know what, the knowledge graph that was built, did it have the right kind of rules in place to make sure that there no, all the boundary conditions are met as well. So I think a lot of work is needed in all of these.
Unless there was a data validation rule in place and it just wasn't tripped, like it had to be 400 nuggets before it was. But kidding aside, and obviously that one's kind of highlighting the lighter side of AI and data problems, but the next one isn't. AI recruitment tool that is only recommending male candidates. Again, because of a history of males applying to that organization, it ended up being the data that was used to train the AI. And again, you'd argue that this is a fundamental sort of data and bias issue, right, Sachin?
Absolutely. And then again, I think it keeps going back. And I mean, everybody is now talking about who's very serious about these AI initiatives. And as I said, I was talking to one of the heads for capital markets, and they're doing their AI program. And they've been doing this for almost 2.5 years. And they keep talking about that. We have learned so much, and everything boils down to that, you know what, you really need to have a high quality data that is training these models. Otherwise, and not just high quality data, but also all these principles of statistics, as well as the machine learning that we have built, that we have learned over the period of time. And we're just jumping into this whole Gen AI world, but we need to apply all those principles into this world as well, and make sure that that proper data profiling is done and all those statistical principles are applied so that the model is not skewed, and it can handle most of the situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think these five mishaps and the Air Canada one being the sixth highlight a real issue with AI, and we're going to get into how to manage that with data in a second. But it also highlights one other thing that's a little bit different. Consumer sentiment towards AI. 70% of consumers say they will switch after just one bad experience with AI, just one, even the humorous one with the nuggets, right? The bar is higher for AI. And I think that we need to really acknowledge that. It's the customer, the consumer who's setting that bar higher. In the past, when we were sending like analytic type offers or personalization, if it was a little off target, the consumer would say, well, they're trying to sell me more. They're telling me it's for a better experience, but they're trying to sell me more. But, it might take one or two or three of those before they would really jump ship. But AI is different, right? You're putting that in front of your customers, and the general public is wary of AI. They believe it's taking jobs from people. They're fearful of it. The first mistake that happens, people will react very strongly to that. You don't get second chances when it comes to your customers, and you've worked years to build those valuable customer relationships.